And we're back. We're back. So this has been brought to my attention again because of a private conversation that I had with the Ryder brothers. And Urban Ninja had let me know of this one video because something had made him upset. Regarding video games. And I swear, if I'm able to post the podcast that's about to come up with me, him, and hopefully another person or other people we can get in there, I will most definitely do it. Because this needs to be talked about for gamers, a lot of casual gamers. But we are here. Pretty much a follow-up video from what I made about Game Freak Pokemon. Concerning old games. And the completionist, I believe his name is Gerard. I watched him from Super Beer Bros. Love his content. And every time I watch him, he states nothing but the facts. Right? So, that being said, a month ago, he had made this video talking about companies don't want you playing classic games. And I decided to not just casually watch this, but make a video about it because I want to talk about this as well. Because this is something that also is going to have me do something that I'm been wanting to do for a very long time, ever since I made the mistake of giving it up. So, without further ado, let's just dive on into this.
87% of classic games are commercially unavailable. Hey everyone, I'm Gerard the Completionist, and a couple months ago, I went crazy and purchased every game available on the North American Wii U and 3DS eShop in the name of video game preservation. Today, we're continuing that bizarre journey by showcasing some of the exclusive titles passed on the eShop video. Why doesn't this dude just pirate all the games? So for those of you unaware, we recently hosted our event Preserve to Play, our annual charity event to raise money for the Video Game History Foundation and their preservation efforts. The past 2 years, we've been joined by Frank Cafaldi and Kelsey Lewin, the co-directors of the VGHF. We'll hear more from them in a little bit. But at this year's Preserve to Play, the Wii U in its complete library was our big star. Some of these games were titles I had completed on the show, like Sonic Boom, Rise of Lyric, or games that I know of but never really touched, like Xenoblade Chronicles X. But have you ever heard of Outside the Realm, or Shadow Archery, or Eternal Invasion? There was the game simply titled Games for Toddlers, which was a medley of activities that could perhaps fit the loose definition of games, and might even indeed be enjoyed by toddlers, maybe. We discovered the delightful joy of Spin the Bottle, Bumpy's Party, a party game which was honestly a blast with a ton of polish, and each activity was very creative.
Yeah. Dance could not lose!
We're dancing, are we not? I don't know, are you?
Oh no, are we?
The inverse of that were games like Color Cubes, which felt like a developer's first attempt at programming. Every new game was a surprise, but nothing will top the unparalleled perfection of the Wii U exclusive gem that is Meme Run.
Now, see, I didn't even know a game like this existed. I didn't even know anyone made that kind of game.
Well, actually, chat thought otherwise, and during Preserve Play, we got into a weird donation war with Meme Run, a dead-ass gambling game called Skunky Bee Super Slot Saga number 1,
Wow.
and my producer playing Wii Fitness U. What can I say? Sometimes our charity streams get a little weird. You should stop by next time.
Gerard, you gonna behave?
Extra hard studying calls for something.
The Wii U and 3DS release.
Hold on.
You gonna behave?
Now, even with the Wii U and 3DS released over a decade ago in 2012 and 2011 respectively, I'm sure very few folks would consider those consoles having classic games on them. And to a larger extent, the Video Game History Foundation agrees. For their study, which I've linked down in the description below, the VGHF drew a line in the sand with titles releasing before 2010 being considered classic, as 2010 was when dominant digital distribution took hold. But okay. With those parameters established of all games pre-2010 being defined as classic, what does the study actually show?
I think a lot of people within the gaming community inherently know that most of video game history is not available to them legitimately. And no one has ever put a number to that. No one's ever done a formal study to see whether that's true or not.
To the untrained eye, you might even think it's pretty easy to get classic games. I mean, there's the Nintendo Switch Online service that's providing, popular retro titles like Mario and Zelda, and companies are putting out collections of old games like pretty frequently. So we needed to prove that it's worse than it looks. For every Mario game that's available, there's hundreds of less popular games that are lost. Right now, the Video Game Industry Police and has convinced the U.S. Copyright Office that the reissue market is thriving, and there's no need for the kinds of protections and exemptions that would make better game preservation possible. We needed to actually prove with numbers and science just how off base they actually are.
All off our base are largely lost to us.
That the availability rates of games never rose above 20% for any 5-year period examined in this study. With all the
And I thought that was why. That right there was what made me want to do this video. 20%. 20%. And how did they possibly convince the copyright? How do you even convince them that everything was going great? How did they even convince them? With what numbers?
The availability rates of games never rose above 20% for any 5-year period examined in this study, with the oldest games faring the worst. The study found that less than 1% of games released before 1980 have been reissued, stating, collectively, the game industry has re-commercialized less than 1/5 of all historical games, leaving nearly 90% unavailable from rights holders. The study took an in-depth look at specific consoles and ecosystems to further cement their findings. So, let's get similarly granular for a moment with the Game Boy Advance. For example, if you loved pinball and wanted to keep nostalgia with Pokemon Pinball Ruby or Sapphire, or maybe you were curious about the often-forgotten Mario Pinball Land, until March of 2023 this year, there were 2 legally available options. You could either make a purchase on the Wii U Virtual Console, or you would need the original cartridge and hardware. Now, with the eShop's closure, both of these pinball games can now only be purchased on the aftermarket. Buying games secondhand comes with a myriad of issues. There are obvious issues like the fact that you can't currently resell digital games. And then there's the fact that companies aren't producing the older hardware anymore, so you may have the game, but no means to play it. But it gets worse, as used game prices have risen by 33% year to year starting in 2021. There's no denying the fact that resellers are taking advantage of the sudden interest in retro video games over the last several years. Buying games secondhand used to be easy, cheap, simple, and quite honestly, a hobby for so many people worldwide. But trying to do so on a wider scale, say, for the purposes of a research project, that has become untenable.
Yeah, okay, so, for example, let's say, just for the hell of it, I wanted to get a physical copy of Pokemon Emerald, or a physical copy of Legend of Zelda, or a physical copy of any PS2 game that no one remembers. Let's say a Godzilla game, right? I bet you know what? Hold on. If I look it up now on eBay, this is on eBay. It's a site for resellers. So let's look at Godzilla PS2 games. Shit. Right off the bat. Right off the bat. Godzilla Unleashed for the PS2. And this came out in 2007. Factory sealed, and it's the rare, right? That is $239.95. Now for the used, for the pre-owned, the shit varies from either to shit. It gets even higher. From $39, close to $40, to almost to almost damn near $50. To almost damn near $50. And that's just one thing. That's one out of many. Now let's look at the Pokemon one. This is on my phone. Pokemon Emerald, right? GBA, right? The first one is for $169. And the next one, the third one, is for $180. So, realistically, what he just said is that these resellers are understanding that people actually want these games. That there's profit in these games still. And the fact that gaming companies like Game Freak refuse to even to rather post references and nostalgia trips on their website about these games, but won't give us a chance to go back and replay them legally. Let's continue.
Now, some of the Game Boy's broader ecosystems is offered through Nintendo Switch Online, but at the time of this recording, there are only 24 titles to play across both the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance lineups on that service. From a consumer standpoint, this seems like a paltry amount, but from a preservationist or research point of view, those numbers are absolutely abysmal. Like, look, from the study, on screen right now is every Game Boy game, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance title produced physically. And now we'll show you all the ones that are commercially available. You see how bad this is? Services like Nintendo Switch Online are a step in the right direction.
Right.
It could serve as a valuable tool in the future, but this is barely even a band-aid when faced with the crushing reality of the disappearing state of classic games, let alone online services just shutting down. Most of the titles that exist on the Nintendo Switch Online are Nintendo developed or published titles first party, and yes, every now and again a Game Boy Advance collection might come out, like in the case of Castlevania, or maybe we'll see a remake like the Advance Wars 1 and 2 series, and we'll touch on those shortly. I can also understand that the licensing for those titles like these, especially in the case of bankruptcies and acquisitions, can be exceptionally tricky. But for games like Rayman Advance, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, and countless others which existed on the Nintendo Wii U Virtual Console, but not yet on the Switch, there's a level of willful neglect that seems to exist here. So, what's the other option that most people go to when they want to play classic games?
Emulators. And rightfully so.
I am not naive. We know that illegally downloading games from the internet and playing them for free is something that a lot of people do. And for them, that's the solution as far as preservation goes. But it doesn't work for everyone. Some of us don't want to break the law on the advice of our probationary officers.
And you know what? I'm going to add this on too. Because he's right. He's right. Not everybody wants to do that, especially for games that you can't even get in the U.S. That never even came over to the U.S. Prime example, and This is an example. Digimon Story Lost Evolution. When I found this out, I wanted to play it. I wanted to play something to get myself into playing a little bit more Digimon. Outside of playing Digimon World Dawn and World Dusk. Those two are still very good games. I'm not knocking that. But what I am saying is that you have a game like that that's only available for the Japanese DS. A console, a handheld console that isn't even active anymore. A console that's not even active anymore. And I can't get it physically. And if I do, guess how... Hold on. I'm going to look it up again. Guess how much it's going to cost me. Digimon Story. Lost Evolution. Okay, so what it's... Well, the pre-owned one, the highest one is $60. There was one without the... Well... There is one that's like around $20, like $27, right? But that's the thing. Here's the thing about this though. Even if that's a low price, right? For right now, it's a low price. It's still in Japanese. I can't speak Japanese. I can't really interpret Japanese or Japanese text or kanji, and romanji. I can't really decipher that and know what that means yet. But I'll tell you what just happened this year. A couple of very brave people took their time and dubbed the entire game in English and put it on a ROM. I have an emulator. I've been wanting to play this game for years. And the only way that I can do that is if I play it through my computer. It's if I play it on an emulator. But you telling me y'all can't give us these games that y'all have put on these on consoles that aren't even active anymore, that you don't want us to even touch. You don't want us to touch these consoles. But we want to play these games, but you don't. But you're not touching them. For whatever reason, you're not touching them. Despite the fact that Bandai Namco basically said it will cost a lot of money for them to bring back these games. Still, it's gonna cost a lot of money at anyway. Anyway, we have interest in these games. We want to still play these games. We really don't want to resort to using emulators all the time. Because some emulators are buggy. You know? Some ROMs can be buggy. Some ROMs can have glitches. That's not an unknown fact. That is a really big fact. Shoot, even with Pokemon ROMs, it can get glitchy. There's some times where a bug or two comes in, because it's a ROM. That's not the actual game.
Some of us. But let's be honest here. Knowing where to find ROMs and how to emulate them, or even worse, learning how to modify your delicate old consoles without breaking them, isn't just something that everybody feels comfortable doing or can do with limited supplies of available hardware and resources.
I'm not worried about nerds like me. I'm worried about normal people being able to access games. And right now, there just isn't a very good, clear, legal path that I think has long-term viability.
If we rely on this as the only solution, We're basically gatekeeping classic video games and making it so only dedicated people who are in the know will ever discover these things. And I don't know about you all, but I think that the games that inspired me today to become who I am should be accessible to everyone. Piracy simply can't be the only way. So, what are companies doing about this?
There's a few good starts out there, with companies starting to take the idea of, for instance, an internal archivist more seriously. I think there are a lot of companies.
I apologize for that.
that
It was my
and
phone.
Certainly, a lot of smaller indie studios who are committed to preservation. But most of the larger studios, regardless of what the top brass might say, are part of the Entertainment Software Association. And the Entertainment Software Association, or ESA, has every time directly lobbied to stop any expansion of preservation efforts.
The ESA's perspective is that if libraries and archives like ours and like many others around the country were able to provide remote digital access to classic games, the notion is that if people can access video games for free from their home, from the library, they're not going to buy games anymore. And if you don't think about that, you go, oh, that kind of makes sense. But libraries have not destroyed the book industry. Libraries have not destroyed home video by allowing remote access to movies. Video games are, in the library world, the only exception for remote access. And frankly, it's shocking that this argument had any legs at all.
Beyond remote access, researching classic titles gets increasingly tricky when the means to replicate the game is tied to the hardware it was on. The Wii introduced motion controls, and the Wii U wasn't just an expansion of the Wii with more refined motion tech. It added the Wii U gamepad, and a ton of games were specifically designed around the functionalities introduced. Asynchronous gameplay was easier than ever with games like Nintendo Land, and Runbow, though it does exist on other platforms, had the Wii U exclusive Color Master mode. And what about experiencing a Toys to Life game like Skylanders? The Wii U gamepad had a near-field communication technology set built in, giving birth to the Amiibo craze. Games like Mini Mario and Friends Amiibo Challenge completely lock you out of the fun unless you had every character. So you needed an Amiibo or some variant of Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, Yoshi, DK, Diddy, Bowser, Bowser Jr., and Rosalina. And there's Pokemon Rumble U, which predates Amiibo on the Wii U, but still uses NFC technology. These are tactile experiences beyond the screen that are additionally of concern when trying to best preserve the context around a game. And it may sound small, but in trying to replicate an experience, you need to think about services that the system had that many cannot be replicated. Games like Splatoon and Super Smash Bros. For Wii U integrated the Miiverse into the stages themselves, but those services have been shut down completely, neutering some of the personality the games were designed around. The thing is, older hardware is probably never going to be made again because there's nothing in it for the companies. The best most game companies can do to keep a game alive is to make it work on a newer system, and sometimes that means cutting out some of the features that made them special to begin with.
Yup.
There are plenty of games on the Wii U that eventually found second lives elsewhere. Porting games to make them available on other platforms is generally a positive step towards preservation, but occasionally something is lost. And releasing new ports of older games blurs the line between being helpful for historians and actual erasure of gaming history. Take the 2012 Ubisoft title Zombie U, a former Wii U exclusive that built a fair amount of its gameplay around the gamepad. But its far more successful 2015 ported version, simply titled Zombie, which is available on the Xbox, PlayStation, and Steam, has eclipsed its original in terms of its availability. The Wii U also has the weird distinction of being home to two wonderful Legend of Zelda ports. Both Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD are arguably improved versions of their originals, but at the time of this video, there are no plans to make these games available on Switch. To further complicate things though, both games use the Wii U gamepad to display the map and allowed for easy item hot swapping. However, with Nintendo having left dual-screen gaming behind, porting these Zelda games again would arguably be a step backward as far as overall player experience is concerned. Having these games easily accessible on Switch would be good, but the Wii U is a unique piece of technology, and each iteration of a game is not the same game, but a distinctly different one. So as grateful as we all may be that we're getting a remake of Super Mario RPG, this guy specifically, it's troubling that there is no legal way to currently play that Super Nintendo classic. Like Frank said in his 2016 talk at GDC,
I would argue that porting by its nature will always be a derivative work. That is not the original work. That is a remake. You cannot port a game without sacrificing something that was in the original. There will be new bugs. There will be inconsistencies. There will be flaws. And while sometimes the only valid option, porting a game from source and expecting 100% faithful reproduction of the original is both a pipe dream and a financial black hole. As nice as extra features are to have, a port of games is not the original game, it's a remake. While remakes can be great complementary pieces to the original work, that original work should also be available.
the results of the study sound pretty bleak. I promise I didn't make this video to bum everyone out. That was never my goal. But I think the information here is valuable. The Video Game Industry Foundation is now armed with data and is sounding the alarm.
I hope the study wakes people up. For years, me and the rest of the team have known that the availability of classic video games in a legal, safe way has been dire. It's worse than probably any other medium.
We can't afford to sit here and let outdated copyright laws condemn video game preservation to the care of whoever is willing to put in their own time and effort into this work for free and at their own legal risk. Because that won't work forever.
I hope that
It won't.
parents in their 40s and 50s who grew up with games and don't even think about them these days, I hope that they catch a headline in a newspaper or like hear a segment on NPR or something and go, whoa, that's kind of crazy. That almost 90% of the games I grew up with, people can't play anymore. We are involving ourselves in trying to push for an exemption to copyright laws that allow games to be accessed remotely legally, but we want the public to get in on the fight too, even if it's just in terms of just being armed with that knowledge, because I don't think most people understand how bad the situation is.
Step one coming out of this study is simply that we get this new allowance for video game preservation. That rather than only allowing libraries to preserve and share video games on site with someone physically inside their library, people should be able to discover and explore these games from wherever they are in the world. Step two will be building the infrastructure to actually make that happen. It won't be a flip of a switch and instantly all libraries can play all games for free from anywhere in the world. Libraries will have to start building these collections in areas. But once they're allowed to do that, we believe it's going to start opening up a whole new layer in depth for game preservation.
This is just the beginning of a much larger movement. But I hope that all this has shown you something about the complicated world of preservation. It isn't simply about piracy as much as it helps. It's all about accessibility to the masses.
I'm not worried about people today. I'm worried about people tomorrow, and I'm worried about people who aren't necessarily in the classic game community being able to discover old games.
If we want to be serious about video games being a really important part of our culture, preservation has to mean more than just the ability to download a set of ROMs. It needs to be a thriving and sustainable scene of discoverability and insight, context, and exploration.
Sound off in the comments of your favorite games that are sadly stuck on antique consoles, and let's all push forward to make a better future for gaming. To read the full study, it's down in the description for you. And if this cause strikes a chord with you, please share the study or this video to keep the conversation going. I'm Gerard the Completionist.
Thank you, Gerard. But you know what? Let me go ahead and speak my piece about this because, okay, so there is a reason why I even decided to make this video. The whole purpose of making this was because a few weeks ago, I was in a late messenger call with the Ryder brothers concerning classic games. And I had brung up the notion that because Urban Ninja was talking about Grand Theft Auto. And it's unfortunate for me to say this, but this is because of my focused nature with one thing or like one or two things and not really paying attention to anything else because of popularity, because everybody else was doing it, so I just went the other way. That was the way I was as a teenager. So it's unfortunate to say this, but I've never played a Grand Theft Auto game. That's not a joke. I'm being 100% serious with the people who are listening. I have never played a Grand Theft Auto game ever. Mostly because the people in my school, when Grand Theft Auto came out, like middle school, they were talking about that all day long. Nothing but Grand Theft Auto. On top of the fact that like the Madden games, it was those three things: Grand Theft Auto, Madden, and 2K. That was all they talked about. I was just like, well, I don't want to be like them. Let me go ahead and play like wrestling games. Let me go ahead and play my Pokemon games and things like that. Spider-Man. Let me go ahead and just play that. Forget this other stuff. And the unfortunate thing that I have to say this is that during the time when the PS3 came out, me and my friend had decided, well, what's the use of me even keeping this PS2? Let's go ahead and sell this shit and get something else for it. So, stupidly, I had given up my PS2. Thing that my mother got me when I was young, and she was pissed at me that I did that. Because why would you get rid of something that you play consistently with? Unfortunately, that isn't the only game that I did not play. There is I have the entire list on me right now. They are as follows: Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Power Rangers Super Legends, Zatch Bell Momoto Fury, Godzilla Save the Earth, ATV Off-Road Fury 2, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Metal Gear Solid, Twisted Metal Black, Vex, Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc, Onimusha, Zone of the Enders 1 and 2, SD Gundam Force Showdown. I wanted to play that when it came out. Now, Digimon World 3 I put in here. I know it's a PS1 classic, but I wanted to play that as well on my PS2, but I never got around to it. Gundam Battle Assault 2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. When like the 2004 cartoon came out, I wanted to play the video game of that. Codename Kids Next Door. I loved that show. I wanted to play the game. Never got to play it. Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, Tenchu, Wrath of Heaven, Shinobi, Kung Fu Panda, realistically, Sonic Heroes. Never got to play Sonic Heroes. Yes, I know. Never got to play that. Sly 1 and 2. Never played Sly. DBC Budokai Tenkaichi 3. Now, my friend had this. He brought this over from time to time. I never owned it. He brought this over from time to time for us to play. I never owned it. Ever. Attacking the Power of Juju. I wanted to play that. Shaolin Showdown. Hack GU Volumes 1 through 3. Rocket Power Beach Bandits. One Piece Grand Adventure. Musashi Samurai Legend. X-Men Legends. True Crime New York City. Sonic Riders, Pac-Man World, War of the Monsters, and Ben 10, Protector of Earth. Now, what I just named to you was at the longest list of games that I've never got to play. And I bet you half of them are not even available to play on the PlayStation digital. PlayStation Plus. I guarantee it. A good portion of them. You know, and you know what? Probably, you could probably play Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on the PS Digital. I'm not 100% certain, but the rest of these, no. I know for a fact I cannot play Godzilla Save the Earth or any of the Cartoon Network games that I just mentioned. None of them are available digital. So, you want to know what I'm going to do? And the sad thing is, and I'm going to say this right now, the only reason why I would ever even want a PS5, why I strive to get a PS5, was because of Spider-Man 2. I know. This giant console for one goddamn game. Which is going to be a good game, but one game. Meanwhile, this entire list of games I've never played. My library is so small that it's amazing that I even went on for this long without even doing that. And I still kick myself in the foot to this day for even letting go of my PS2. But you want to know what I'm going to do? Come my birthday, which will be Monday, I am going to go get a PS2 console. And my first game that I want to order, is going to be One Piece Grand Adventure, because I never got to play that game. And most likely, I want to get Godzilla Save the Earth, because I really want to play that. I never got to play it. I'm a Godzilla nut, and I love Godzilla. I never got to play that game. Games like these should be available for us regardless. And these are games that these developers have pretty much just dropped. They've forgotten all about these games. And the sad thing is, the crazy thing is, the money is not going to the game developers who made these games, or the company that's making these games. Our money is going to be going to the resellers for these games. Hell, and for a lot of these games, a lot of these companies don't even exist no more. They don't. I know that for a fact. They don't. A good portion of these games that were made by these companies, they don't even exist anymore. It's a goddamn shame. It really is. On top of that, Brian had sent, Urban Ninja had sent me an article concerning what we just witnessed on here. This is going to be a long ass video. Today, the Video Game History Foundation and Software Presentation Network published a major majority which shows that 80% of classic games released in the US are out of print. The results are striking, and it proves that we need to rethink the commercial marketplace roles in game preservation. And then it goes on to say, most classic games are no longer in print. Might sound like an obvious statement for us to write a 40-page study about, and it is. The retro gaming community knows from experience that most games are no longer available. Anyone who's tried to research old video games has probably run into a situation where they can't get a copy of the game they're studying. That's the reality of the video game market. However, this isn't widely known outside the gaming community. It is not easy to prove. From the outside, it certainly doesn't look like there's a problem. You can fire up your Switch and get Super Mario Bros. And Pac-Man, and you can do that. Especially now with the the game that they made for Pac-Man. You can just pick that up for the Switch. But let's continue. You can buy a new copy of Final Fantasy. Forget what that roll number is. For just about every platform. There's certainly a market for classic game resellers, the re-releases, and as far as the game industry is concerned, business is booming. So there's confusion about the state of the market of classic games. So what? That might not seem like a big deal, but it has big implications for game preservation and copyright reform. Since 2015, libraries, museums, and archives in the United States have been petitioning the Copyright Office for new exemptions that would make it easier for them to preserve games and make those games available to researchers. Each time, game industry lobbyists have opposed these new exemptions. They've argued that there are already an active growing market for classic games, something that libraries would interfere with if they got in their way. But here's the thing though, that is not true. That's the thing. That is not true. Because half of the games that I just pointed out in my list that I have not played is not available in libraries. I know that for a fact. And the only way that I can get that is by getting online. And it's going to cost me a pretty penny to do. It's true that there's more game being re-released than ever before, but then why does the game community believe that so few classic games are still available? Because it is. There are a few classic games up. I just named you a good portion of these games that you can't get digitally. You can't get Vex. You can't get Godzilla Save the Earth digitally. You can't get that. You can't get a Codename Kids Next Door game. You can't unless you buy it physical, online, through eBay or whatever. You can't get it any other way. You can't get that. We need an accurate understanding of where things stand right now. We've conducted the study to settle the facts. It's not enough to just have a hunch. We need hard data. Okay? What percentage of classic games are still in release? We decided the best way to approach this was to take a big random sample of all classic video games released in the US and find out whether you can still get them. It's hard to define exactly what a classic game is, but for the sake of this study, like Gerard said, we looked at all the games released before 2010, which is roughly the year when digital game distribution started to take off. So, like Gerard said, after 2010, that was when that they started making stuff be more digital, right? So outside of that, in the class of 2000s, and again, like I said before, a good portion of that list is I without 100%, I know for a fact, are in the early 2000s and or the late 90s. Early 2000s or late 90s. I definitely know for a fact that's the case. A good portion of these are like around the time of 2002, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009. Like, these games don't exist in any other way. So, what are we doing here? What exactly are we doing? Here's the other article that he sent me. This is from PCGamer.com by Harvey Randall, and it states, studies find out around 87% of games are unplayable without resorting to piracy, scavenger hunts, or traveling to an archive, right? Are choosing to just pirate and not just use their hard-earned money for. 87% of classic video games released in the US are critically endangered, claims the study. just 13% of video game history, stop it, god dang it, cancel, is being re-represented in the current marketplace. In fact, no period of video game history defined in this study even cracked 20% represent. The methodology, which you can read the full breakdown of here, used randomized sample of 1,500 games re-released before 2010, which is roughly the year where digital game distribution started to take off. They also collected further and more targeted data on different consoles, ecosystems, abandoned, neglected, and active. Given the examples of the Commodore 64, the Game Boy, and the PS2 respectively, in total 4,000 games are included in the study. Yeah, it's a lot. It's damn sure a lot. Whether a re-release game counted as accessible was based on how much the original had been preserved. For example, the Foundation considered the remaster of 1987's Jinxter to qualify for still being available, while Yakuza Kiwami, a remake of Sega's 2005 action classic Yakuza, was considered too different to qualify the original as being in print. Okay. The study mentions libraries and archives can digitally preserve but not digitally share video games and can provide on-premise access only, which is an important distinction. You can still technically play many of the games the study states are endangered. It's just impossible if you don't live close to an archive. So basically, if you don't have the connects, you can't play half of these games. If you don't know where to have these games from, you're not going to be able to play them. It does, however, make a salient point by comparing classic games to the Titanic movie. Imagine if the only way to watch Titanic was to find a used VHS tape and maintain your own vintage equipment so that you could still watch it. And what if no library, not even the Library of Congress, could do any better? They could digitize that VHS of Titanic, but you'd have to go all the way there just to watch it. Yeah, see, that's what they're saying. You won't be able to have it owned in your hands. You would have to go to another location just for you to experience it. This comes in the environment of increasingly complex arguments over copyright laws and game preservation. In a medium where the platforms themselves vanish along with their titles, the U.S. Copyright Office's remote access exemptions for archived works explicitly leave out video games. Why, though? I don't understand that. Even video game researchers and historians have to travel just to play games that are otherwise impossible to buy. Yeah. It's just a mess. It's a mess. It really is a mess. According to the Foundation, the video game industry's main lobbying group has successfully argued to the U.S. Copyright Office that the industry already does enough to preserve its own history commercially, and that additional protections for preservation institutions would hurt their bottom line. Okay? The Foundation then goes on to cite several examples of aggressive industry campaigning against preservation efforts in 2015. The Entertainment Software Association, basically what they were talking about in the video, ESA, argued that there is no such thing as an obsolete game. Okay. Then again, in 2021, the ESA argued again that the preservation of video games was addressed adequately by the current exemptions, something which the Video Game Industry Foundation has just thrown into harsh doubt. The debate around preservation hits close to home for most gamers. Just in this past month, I've written about the WildStar and a Realm Online. The former you can't play anymore, and the latter had the dial completely reset on a bunch of quality of life improvements due to IP holders stonewalling. Even one of my favorite MMO, City of Heroes, was completely inaccessible until a private server finally became public in 2019. Finally putting together how dire the situation is in concrete numbers is one step closer to making sure no game gets. With all of that, this is just to further prove that, like, we have a large library of games from these consoles that game companies like PlayStation, like Sony and Nintendo do not want us to touch anymore. Yet they consistently refuse to acknowledge the fact that there are many great games that they still have not addressed nor touched, nor want to bring back in their libraries or archives because they believe that there's no profit. They believe that if they just give us these games, we're not going to buy anything. And like I said before, in the previous video I made about Pokemon, it's amazing to me how these companies do everything in their power to make them not make so much money. If only y'all knew the level of loyalty you would have with consumers who've been with your company for so long, who buy your product for so long. If only you knew how much more money you could get from us if you actually took the time and give us something that you've left behind. Something that you don't want us to touch. That you ignored our outcry, our love for it. But you put a new game in our face and believe that we're just supposed to go ahead and buy that instead of the thing that we actually wanted to buy. The thing that we actually wanted to play. I have been a PlayStation person my entire life. From PS1 all the way up till now. And I can honestly tell you that I'm going back. I'm going back to getting a PS2. I'm not going to be getting a PS5 for a very long while. Not until I enjoy what was made. And if that means I gotta go back and buy these games my damn self, I will. Because it's clear that waiting for companies like these to do this is a wasted effort. Big companies like this do not care what we have to say. They just want profit. They want profit for what they have now. They want to move forward. They don't want to go back. And it's unfortunate to say this, but I ain't with it. I'm sorry, but I'm just not with it. As much as I wanted to play Spider-Man 2 when it came out, I can't ignore the fact that I never played this long list of games. I can't ignore that no more. And I think it's honestly stupid for me to buy this, like I said before, buy this huge console just to play one game. Just to play one game. Sitting here collecting dust. And I only got one game for it. For real, you can get Street Fighter 6 or something like that. Yes, I can. But like I said, that's just one more game. That's 2 games for one giant console. 2 games. Tekken and Mortal Kombat aren't coming out for right now. I still have time. they're obviously not going anywhere. Obviously, they're not going anywhere. And shoot, I would love nothing more than to go back and play Mortal Kombat Armageddon. I love that game. I actually do. I love that game. It's not gonna kill me. But that's my move for this year, possibly the next year. Well, not possibly. It will be my move for this year and next year. But let me know what y'all think. How do you feel about this? Is there a game in any of the consoles that you love, that you enjoy playing, that you've been with for years? Is there any game, like Gerard said, that isn't available from the company that made that? What's a game that you really loved and you can't play because of time? And it's not available to the current to the current media. Let me know in the comments down below. This is gonna be a long ass video, but I don't care. It's been Master of Sakurai. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all again next time. I'm out. Peace.